Hello, thank you for joining us for a new video. Today we're unboxing the global edition of the Redmi Note 15 Pro G. Let's begin. I still didn't catch the full name of the Xiaomi brand, but it's really long. We need to clarify and make an important note that this is actually the global edition. The Chinese version was already introduced back in August. A lot of grey market distributors tend to import the Chinese version, so maybe many people have already bought that version. It does have some differences, so let's take our time and go through this slowly. This is the global version that in Mexico has an advertised price of 9,499 pesos. Honestly, it is a high price considering some of its specifications. In fact, it is expected that in the future there will be the Poco X8, very similar to this model but much cheaper. You know that Xiaomi makes a little strange strategy, but well, fortunately I got a coupon for those who want to buy this device, so I'll leave it in the description if you want to have a 10% discount available at the official Xiaomi store. Alright, let's gradually get to know it so we can observe its details more closely. Obviously, like any mid-range product, it will have its high points as well as its low points. So let's unbox it to explore these details. The box is quite different from what we've seen in previous generations. As you may know, Redmi has updated its image, now opting for a fully capitalized style in its writing. In this part, we're going to locate a small envelope or box where we will find the key needed to remove the SIM card tray. Additionally, we'll find the usual paperwork included, along with a case that fortunately is also included in the box, meaning you won't need to purchase it separately. As you can observe, the case is entirely solid or opaque, and in this particular instance, it is also fully flexible with semi-rigid edges. This design will provide a decent level of protection, although it might significantly compromise the overall design's appearance. That's not a case that will match the device's color unless it's a gray phone, but let's check out the device since this was on top of it. Here we are with the phone. Let's take it out of the bag. If you get this black version, you'll have the same design with or without a case, so if I had this phone, I'd use it with a case. I'm not a huge fan of devices that are entirely dark, but let me know your thoughts in the comments. It is a somewhat glossy finish, but it does show some fingerprints. Honestly, it doesn't feel very premium in that regard. Anyway, we'll check out more details soon. For now, let's see what else is in the box. Because as you will notice, we are going to find the cable and the charger, and fortunately these are two elements that still remain in the packaging. The charger is 45 watts, and we will see when we conduct the test whether you can take full advantage of its capabilities or not. It comes with a USB-A connector, which is not so modern in that sense. The truth is, at this price point, you already perceive something that is not entirely up to date, but we should be grateful that the charger is included in the box. Xiaomi has yet to decide to remove the charger from this packaging as a necessary accessory. However, let's put everything aside for now so we can concentrate on the phone itself and explore its technical data and specifications in detail. Here I have the device all set up and configured, ready to provide you with an initial look. You'll notice that it has a thickness of 796 millimeters. In this regard, it's thinner compared to its previous generation, which is quite interesting. It catches the eye because they've managed to fit a larger battery inside, yet the device itself is slimmer. However, keep in mind it weighs 210 grams, which is an increase of 20 grams from the last generation. It feels like a significantly heavier device when held in the hand. It now boasts IP66, IP68, IP69, and IP69K ratings, enhancing its water resistance compared to the previous generation, which only had IP68. This feature could be considered its strongest advantage. It is an extremely water-resistant device. In fact, the manufacturer further claims that it is highly resistant to falls, having put a lot of effort into the internal components and more aspects. We'll test later to check its durability. Let me know in the comments which rivals you want us to compare it to, because I'm planning a video to drop test several mid-range devices. Many claim high endurance lately, so I want to see who really holds up best. Let me know in the comments what you think. As you can see, I have the black color edition. It will also be available in titanium gray and misty purple. The screen has a diagonal of 6.83 inches, much wider than the last generation, reducing bezels. Definitely that in this sense they have achieved a design that does look modern. In addition, here on the front it arrives protected with Gorilla Glass Victus 2. Be careful because the Chinese version has glass of the house, while the global version does bet on Gorilla Glass. We are talking about an AMOLED screen with a resolution called as 1.58K or 2772 by 1280 pixels, just above full HD, now with brightness up to 3200 nits compared to last generation's 3000 nits. It's still not the brightest screen in the category, but the screen quality is truly excellent and is further enhanced by the 120Hz refresh rate, making it outstanding. There is really nothing to criticize about the screen in general. In fact, many smartphones these days are equipped with incredibly good screens, and this one certainly stands out among them. In this particular case, we will also encounter stereo sound, featuring a speaker located at the bottom, and another speaker positioned in the earpiece area, with a secondary output through the frame. This speaker is capable of producing a very loud sound. Interestingly, it displays a 400% volume, indicating an attempt to artificially boost the gain, although it tends to increase too much in the mid-frequencies. Honestly, the sound quality is not particularly spectacular, but it does have the potential to be quite powerful. The front camera has a resolution of 20 megapixels, featuring an f2.2 aperture and fixed focus. You'll notice that during the preview, the optimization isn't great, but once you take the picture, it does balance the lights and shadows quite well. However, honestly, the camera doesn't really appear to be 20 megapixels. It seems more like 4 megapixels or something similar. Initially, the front camera gives a basic impression. On the back, there's a main camera with a resolution of 200 megapixels and an f1.7 aperture. The sensor measures 1/1.4 inches, making it quite large. In fact, this is a notable difference from the Chinese version, which only included a 50 megapixel camera. So be aware that the digital zoom will be significantly improved with this camera. Next, we will discover the 8 megapixel ultra wide angle camera, which features an f2.2 aperture. And it no longer includes a third camera, unlike the previous generation that did come with a macro camera. I would say that nobody will really miss it, but I only point this out as a notable difference. Well, let's quickly examine it. Here's the ultra-wide camera, and it looks quite good. Now, you're viewing the main camera, which clearly enhances, especially in shadows, capturing better dynamic range in complex settings. With 2x zoom, it maintains quality, so short distance digital zoom is well optimized. Next, you're observing the 4x digital zoom, and we still perceive very good quality. Typically, this is as far as 200 megapixel sensors provide optical quality. I wouldn't claim it offers 100% optical quality, but certainly that short distance zoom is of excellent quality. Now you're viewing the 10x digital zoom capture, and it actually appears pretty good. Moving on to the 20x digital zoom, it's already quite noticeable that it's digital, yet it still looks like a well-optimized scene. And finally, we get to see the 30x digital zoom. What do you think? Let me know your opinion in the comments. But I definitely feel that even though it doesn't have a telephoto camera, they have utilized the 200 megapixel camera really well. So I believe it can compete effectively. However, a telephoto camera will always provide superior capabilities, especially when it comes to portrait photography. But we will see more in the video review when we conduct some more detailed tests. Currently, I'm not too disappointed with the photo system. For video, both the front and ultra-wide cameras can record in full HD, while the main camera reaches 4K. However, the video recording is disappointing. Among the additional cameras, only the main one offers a quality that's acceptable for its category. But the battery will be a strong point, with 6,580 mAh. A major improvement over the last model. The Chinese version has 7,000 mAh, marking a difference with the global version. It could be a key attraction, though we'll see if it truly impresses. But in use, they disappoint. We will put it to the test, and in the video review, we will tell you their specific results. Because sometimes I insist that the specification sounds very impressive, but then when you put it in practical life, it does not seem to be so optimized. It supports 45W charging with charger included in the box. On the software, I was disappointed that it arrives with HyperOS 2.0 still, so we'll consume one of its updates to get to the latest version of today, and it is something that does not please too much. Finally, in terms of power, it integrates 8 GB of RAM LPDDR2X and 512 GB of storage, although UFS 2. It has very good storage capacity, although it is a bit slow storage. Then for the most demanding who require a lot of speed, storage already going to limit them a bit. While the processor is the MediaTek Dimensity 7400 Ultra, which will not be such a powerful processor. So this is a device that doesn't really focus on high performance. For the same price, you could find a device from its premium brand, Poco, which would be significantly more powerful than this. I find Xiaomi's strategy quite unusual. However, the Redmi brand has a much wider distribution. You can find it in more physical stores and also in some online stores. So let's say that this brand is always usually more famous, and for that reason also tends to be more expensive. We are definitely not free from encountering strange things on the lock screen, with backgrounds that change whenever they want and a bit of spam, even including ads right here on the lock screen. Honestly, that is quite bothersome because it is not a super cheap device or one that competes with the lowest prices. Yet, we will still encounter some spam and preloaded applications that nobody really asked for or wanted. But, well, for those who are interested in numbers, here we have the Geekbench results. We see 1,052 points in single core and 2,950 points in multi-core. This confirms what I've been telling you. It's a processor that's quite limited for its category. You could actually find this processor in devices that are priced at half the cost of this one, just to give you a clearer idea. On the other hand, the results from Antutu show 9,40,939 points, which confirms that this is indeed a device. Power-wise, simple. Keep in mind, it's not necessarily a bad thing if you're planning to use it for social networks. WhatsApp, for instance, will work smoothly on this device. However, if your intention is to use it for more demanding graphics tasks, such as real-time Snapchat or Instagram filters, gaming, video editing, and similar activities, you might find it lacking compared to other devices at similar price points. But don't worry, we'll have a complete video review available soon. We've finished this unboxing. Hope you liked it. Let us know, and see you next time.